Good evening. Welcome to Bert's World, where intelligence meets the inexperienced. I'm in Omaha, Nebraska right now, doing my internship. First episode here. Not sure how many I'm going to do here, but we're going to do a continuation of last month's episode about college. So hopefully now you figured out whether or not you want to go to college. So today's episode is going to be what college to go to. I have a couple points to go over. I think it'll be a pretty short episode this time around. So let's get into it. So the first thing I looked at when it came to figuring out what college I wanted to go to was whether or not I wanted to stay in state or go out of state. For me, it was a huge thing to go out of state. Just wanted to experience something new. And for some people, they rather be in state, be a lot closer to home. There's a lot of advantages to being closer to home, like getting your laundry done at home, because laundry costs money when you're at college. Food being cooked by parents, easy transport. Sometimes you might need to ride somewhere your parents can take you, or your car might break down. There's just a lot more support when you're closer to home as opposed to out of state logistics wise. But then going out of state, there's definitely a bigger push to become your own person, to grow up. It definitely forces you to do things you wouldn't have done before, and at least that's in my experience. There's also your own reason as to why you don't want to be in state, but I think that's one of the first questions you should ask yourself. The second thing would be, what's your overall passion? That really guides what school you want to apply to, especially when it comes to, let's say, medical school. You want to get into one of the better medical schools in your state or out of state. Not all schools are created equal when it comes to curriculum, so you're going to want to look at, okay, who has the most room for growth in a certain area, whether it's engineering, computer science. You don't want to go to a medical school or a school that concentrates in medicine and want to pursue some sort of computer science degree. It just doesn't make all that much sense, and the curriculum just might not be as rigorous as you want or need it to be. Figuring out your broad passion, and doesn't even need to be a major. Just, are you into computers? Are you into animals, people, systems? It's very engineering based. Food, like myself, I want to go into food science, nutrition, whatever it may be. Look for that broader passion, and that'll really help guide what college you want to go to. And then the third thing would definitely be scholarships and financial aid. College can be very expensive. There's a couple of things to look for when it comes to that. If you're from low socioeconomic areas, I would definitely look up 100% need-based colleges. There's probably 70 of them in the US. You might have one or two that are in your state, and those colleges basically award the majority of their financial aid to people who need it, as opposed to merit-based. You could also look at merit-based aid, but that's all dependent on your GPA, your test scores, and other tests that they may require. It might also be up to the board, so I more recommend looking at 100% need-based colleges. Another consideration of whether you want to be in state or out of state is financial aid. Some states like Florida have Bright Futures scholars, or some other government-based aid that will give you full ride based on your GPA or test scores or test scores. And then there's states like California whose schools don't give that much financial aid, so that's always something to look out for. But don't go into it thinking that being out of state is going to be more expensive. Chances are, if you find a school with 100% need-based aid and you're part of a low socioeconomic area, you will get a very good financial aid package. Individual schools within a college or university might also provide certain aid that's not available to other majors within that university, so I would also look at that. And then there's also school organizations that might give out financial aid or scholarships. So there's a lot to consider when it comes to the cost of college, but it's definitely third on this list because it's not the most important part. There's a lot of workarounds, and there's a lot of colleges and universities that will give you enough aid to attend, or more than enough aid to attend in certain cases. I would definitely not keep that at the forefront of your college decision. Definitely make that towards the middle or end. And then I have two more here, and it's mostly up to your preference what is more important, and it's extracurriculars at the college and what location it's in. So for some state schools, there's a network of colleges. So for example, in Miami, we have Miami-Dade College, and they have a Homestead campus, a North campus, a Hialeah campus, and I believe a downtown campus, but I can't remember that. I think it's the Wolfson campus or something like that. Same with the University of Miami. They have their medical campus, their main campus. Cornell also has several campuses. They have their New York City campus. They have their Agritech campus in Geneva, New York. And they have their Weill School of Medicine, which is outside of the city. And so these are things to consider when it comes to choosing what college you want to go to. Is their school in a location that you prefer? Or if you're looking at all your schools out of state, do you want to be in an environment like Los Angeles, California, or would you want to be in Houston, Texas? There's two different cultures surrounding that. Looking at extracurriculars, one school might have a really good chess club, a really good investment banking club, a really good engineering club. It all depends on what you're really looking for, what's most important for you. For me, location wasn't very important. I was more looking at what major I wanted. That was basically the first thing on my mind, what major I wanted, and if I wanted to be out of state or in state. I chose to be out of state because I wanted a bit more freedom, a bit more room to grow into my own person, amongst other things. Other than that, the very last thing, at least on my personal list, would have been the social life at the colleges, what there was to do for fun outside of the school atmosphere. For Cornell, it's mostly a lot of outdoorsy activities, or your clubs, or maybe you want to go to FSU because of their social life, their whole scene there. It all depends on what you're really looking for. But for me, that was the lowest on my priority list. Everyone has different reasons for going to college. And maybe I'll go over my reasons in a later episode. But Cornell definitely aligned with the majority of my reasons of going to college, and so far I've been happy with my decision. Another decision type that could influence your college decision is whether or not you want to do early decision or early action to any of these colleges. There is an understanding that if you apply for early decision or early action to any of your preferred colleges or universities, that you would have a better chance of getting in. That's not necessarily true, but the stat basically comes from less people applying during that time and more people getting in during that time. It's not indicative of your standing within the entire pool of students within your application class, but it is something to consider, because usually early decision, early action percentages of acceptance are higher than regular decision. But you also have to keep in mind that many more people are applying during that time. Early decision is more of a locked-in option. If you're accepted, it is understood that you are going to accept at that point, and you should rescind all your other applications. Early action is a bit different. There's not as strong of an obligation to accept. However, you should take it just as seriously. And if there's a college that you really want to go to, considering everything that we went over in this episode, I would definitely do an early action or early decision application if it's available for that college. I personally did early decision for Cornell. All right, so I'm gonna end the episode here. Hopefully this gave you some guidance on how to make that college decision. Gave you a list of priorities that you may not have thought of before. A lot of this information was given to me by my guidance counselor during high school, Mr. Milian. Shout out to him. Hopefully he sees this at some point. And yeah, thank you.